All righty. Good evening, everyone. As it is now 6 o'clock, we will go ahead and get started here. My name is Kyle Packer, and I'm a planner with the town of Oro Valley. And I'll also be the town's project manager reviewing the applicant's proposal, and I'll be facilitating tonight's neighborhood meeting. So thank you for joining us tonight for a meeting regarding the proposed residential subdivision on the east corner of Morning Vista Drive and Rancho Vistoso Boulevard. I'm going to start tonight by discussing the purpose and agenda for tonight's meeting. Town staff and the applicant are here to give you, the project's neighbors, an opportunity to share comments and have your questions answered directly regarding the proposed 18-unit residential subdivision pictured here. First for tonight, I'll provide information on the public participation process, then give a brief overview of the project. Next, the applicant's representative, Ms. Carrie Sylvan, will provide a more detailed overview of the project. And after Ms. Sylvan's presentation, it'll be your turn. So please ask any questions you have for the applicant regarding their project and application. Following your input, I'll provide more information about the next steps for this project, and then conclude by sharing more about the upcoming opportunities for public participation. Our goal here tonight is to hear from you while ensuring a fair and productive meeting. The town has transitioned to online public meetings to protect the health of town residents while still providing ample opportunity to participate and stay involved. I'll provide more information about how Zoom works and how to participate when the opportunity for public comment opens. If you're having any technical issues with Zoom, please contact Malini Sims at 520-229-4836 to seek assistance. If you're accessing by phone, you may need the passcode 477446 shown at the bottom right of the screen. Tonight's meeting is scheduled to go no later than 7:30 p.m. I'd like to note that this Zoom meeting and the PowerPoint presentation will be posted on this project's webpage as soon as possible. We found that Zoom may take a day or two to process the recording. However, we'll post it immediately once we receive it. Comments will also be posted online on the project webpage in a neighborhood meeting summary and forwarded to the Planning and Zoning Commission and Town Council when they consider the application. So where are we in the process? For residential subdivision applications, applicants reach out to staff through a pre-application. They've done so, and together we prepared an information video distributed online at the same time yellow postcards were mailed out. You can find this video on ovprojects.com. We're now at the first neighborhood meeting. It's important to hear your comments and questions before a formal submittal so the applicant and staff can hear your concerns and have the opportunity to address them through revisions and review. Following tonight, town staff expect a formal submittal from the applicant. So let's take a moment to review the areas surrounding the subject property. The proposed residential subdivision outlined in blue on this slide is approximately 3.5 acres. It's located along the northwest section of the Rancho Vistoso Boulevard Loop, as seen in the map on the top right of the slide. Monterey Homes at Rancho Vistoso borders the property to the north, east, and south, while Stone Canyon 6 is across Rancho Vistoso Boulevard to the northwest. This property is part of the Rancho Vistoso Planned Area Development, a document that provides zoning information specific to the Rancho Vistoso area within Oro Valley. Through this document, written in 1987, the property has a designation of high-density residential, which was applied at that time as it was for what became the Monterey at Rancho Vistoso subdivision. Through this zoning designation, structures can be up to 34 feet tall and must be set back 20 feet from the front of a lot, 5 feet from the side unless they share an attached wall with another structure, and 5 feet from the rear of a lot. Attached single-family and multifamily dwellings are both permitted uses within this zoning designation, and as such, the focus of the review process is not on permitted uses, but on design. It's important to emphasize that duplex homes are permitted use on the property, and a code-compliant proposal must ultimately be approved by the town. The PAD zoning standards from the previous slide are applicable to the proposed conceptual site plan shown here. Staff have identified key factors for review throughout the design process. namely in regards to protected lands on site, such as the hillside slopes, the associated drainage, and safe access to and from the property. As a single-story duplex subdivision, the applicant's proposal tentatively meets zoning requirements, including building setbacks, height, and parking requirements. The applicant will be discussing these factors as well as more, such as preliminary architecture. Ms. Carrie Sylvan will describe the project in more detail in her presentation. And Ms. Sylvan, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Let me. Okay, are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kyle, and welcome everybody to the neighborhood meeting. My name is Carrie Sylvan. I am representing the developer of the project. We have some of our project team on the call as well. So if there are questions that they need to answer, we will be able to get them involved in the meeting. Michael Ceravia with DSW is here. He's the local development company, and he's actually going to give a quick introduction in just a minute. Jason Morse with Grenier Engineering, our engineering company, is with us as well. Jim McMahon, who's the architect for the project. And then Robin Large, who is a senior land planner with Lazarus and Sylvan with our firm, is also here. As Mr. Packer already said, the project is proposed as an 18 single-family residence on the 3.5 acres in conformance with the planned area development. The process that we're in right now is related to conceptual site plan, conceptual landscape plan, and conceptual architecture plans. What I'm going to do is ask Michael to turn on his camera and go ahead and introduce himself for a minute, and then I'll jump back into the presentation. Go ahead, Michael. We can see
you. Hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you.
My name is Michael Ceravia. I am the CEO of DSW Commercial, a Tucson-based development firm, and I'm a native of Tucson, Arizona, and a graduate from the University of Arizona. We are really excited about this smaller project to be able to accommodate some of the residents there with regards to smaller footprints and a nice project. We've been in Tucson developing, and we have quite a few projects around town. And I will provide my website for you guys to go look at some of the stuff that we have around Tucson. I've been working in Oro Valley. I've been in Oro Valley as my family has. My brother lives out there, and I have land out there as well. And I'm excited for this project. And so I will be available if you guys have specific questions, and we'll try to get them answered.
Great. Thanks, Michael. Okay. I know staff has already gone over the location, and most of you know exactly where the project is, Rancho Vistoso, Morning Vista Drive. It's 3.5 acres. Many of you may live in the surrounding neighborhood, but it is surrounded by residential. The drainage and the topography that Mr. Packer was talking about is kind of up in the northeast area of the site. And that's an area that we're leaving about 1/3 of the project as open space. And that connects with the other open space as well that was planned within the Rancho Vistoso PAD. The current zoning, as staff indicated, is HDR, high density residential. HDR permits 8 to 14 residences per acre, which actually translates for 3.5 acres to, it would permit anywhere between 28 and 49 residential units on the project. You'll all be happy to know we're only proposing 18. The heights in the PAD also permit up to 3 stories and 34 feet, and we are committing to a single story project. So the height will be 16 feet The highest point on the homes is 15 feet 9 inches, which is also lower than a lot of single family residences, which are a lot of times at 18 feet. And it is high density residential really all around us in the Rancho Vistoso PAD. So let me focus in on the proposal. If you watched the video that was on the website, I had indicated that we would have an updated conceptual and landscape plan. This is now updated. So this has the landscaping per town code. It's, as I said before, there's 18 single story residences on the 5.14, I'm sorry, on the 3.5 acres. The residential residences per acre is 5.14, which is well below the bottom of the HDR, which is 8. These are all going to be 2-bedroom townhome products. They're on 3,800 to 3,900 square foot lots. And they each will have a 2-car garage. As I mentioned before, the northeastern area is the area with the topography and the open space connecting to the other open space that's adjacent to us. And that ends up that about a third of the property is going to remain as open space, both passive and active. The access point is proposed on Morning Vista Drive, where there's a little stub out right now for a curb cut. Because this is only going to be 18 homes, we only need one access drive, as 18 single family residential townhomes don't generate enough traffic to need 2 access points onto Morning Vista Drive. The setbacks and landscaping, Morning Vista Drive, adjacent to Morning Vista Drive, we have a 15-foot landscape buffer, which is required adjacent to a collector. Adjacent to Rancho Vistoso Boulevard is a 25-foot. In the north and northeastern area, obviously this area is open space. In the north and the eastern area, we have a 15-foot building setback with a wall on the property line and some vegetation in those areas. We also have some additional vegetation in these areas, knowing that this is in this area, knowing these are closest to those homes. As staff already indicated, code requires for each of the homes front yard setback of 20 feet, side and rear setbacks of 5 feet. I'm going to go through a little bit of the architecture. I'm going to try and describe using architectural terms. And again, Jim is on the phone and can probably do a better job of answering these questions. So these are the front elevations of the townhome product. You can see integrally colored synthetic stucco along with stone veneer. Those are insulated metal garage doors with lights, LITES, which are those windows at the top. There's a standing seam metal roof. And again, that's the tallest point at 15 feet 9 inches. This is the side elevation, which is you're seeing the same materials swinging around the side, and you'll see it as well on the rear. Also want to highlight on this elevation the colored metal aluminum windows with doors and door frames that match the fascia. These will also be low E dual pane windows that are argon filled. The rear elevation, again, you're seeing the same materials along the back. The utilities that you're seeing up on the roof, those will be screened. All the utilities will be screened as required by code. This is meant to highlight the architecture. And again, you're seeing the same materials on the back of the buildings. I'm just going to step through a couple more. These are just the conceptual architecture from different angles. Again, this is on the looking into the backyards. That's just a different angle looking into the back, kind of over the side and the front, and the other side and front. So again, the use is permitted and our densities and heights are well below what's actually permitted in the Rancho Vistoso PAD. The submittal is not about the use, it's about the conceptual site and landscape plans and conceptual architecture. As staff has indicated, we are intending to submit an application that meets code. And we look forward to answering your questions as we can. Thank you.
All righty, thank you, Ms. Sylvan. I will go ahead and share my screen again. All righty, so before we get started with your questions, I'd like to explain how to participate. So if you wish to speak, please use the raise your hand function in Zoom. There are going to be 2 ways to do this. For those of you calling in by phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. And for those participating on the Zoom app or website, click on the participants icon. This is going to open a menu with the option to raise your hand. For those on an iPad or a tablet, you may need to click the 3 dots that say more in order to get to the option to raise your hand. Raised hands will be moved to the top of the list in the order in which they were raised. And please make sure you're not muted on your personal device and that your video is not turned off on your personal device by using the microphone and video icons shown on this slide. And if you're having any technical issues with Zoom or have further questions on that matter, please contact Malini Sims at 520-229-4836 to seek assistance. Please keep your input to no longer than 3 minutes out of fairness to all participants who wish to be heard. I'll respectfully remind folks of this guideline as is needed. And with that, let's go ahead and get started with your questions and comments. Please bear with me as it may take a moment to unmute folks and move between speakers. All righty, it looks like we've got a few folks. I'm going to go ahead and unmute Dana. Apologies if I said your name wrong. And Dana, would you like your camera turned on?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay. All righty.
Get this in place here. Okay. Hi, everybody. I first would like to say, Peter and we moved here at the very early stages of this development while it's still under construction. So we've been a resident here for 20 years. And we know that that back lot behind us will be developed. We've known that since day one, since we purchased the home. And I want to say thank you for the video that you've given to us ahead of time. I actually am relieved to see this plan because I've seen other development in the past that was proposed that was a much higher density and very tall buildings, 2-story buildings. And so I'm very relieved to see a low profile, flat roof, single family duplex design with a lot of landscape buffering. So thank you for that.
Perfect. Do you have any other questions or comments? Perfect. All righty. Well, then I will go ahead and lower your virtual hand here, and we will. I will ask Kevin and pardon me, it's truncated, so I'm going to go with Denise to unmute.
Hello, you hear me?
Hello there.
Yeah, I appreciate what Dana said. I respect her opinion, and it's nice to hear from people who've been here a long time. We've been here since 2004, and we are one of the perimeter houses as well. And we went through this with the large building, I forget what the term, the big house concept that was proposed the last time. So I think you'll find a bunch of people have been through it before. The one thing I wanted to remind everybody of is something that came up the last time that a proposal was done for this site, was that this is a unique site in all of Rancho and likely all of Oro Valley, in that it's a high density residential building overlooking from a higher elevation, surrounding established homes in an existing neighborhood on multiple sides. And I can't think of any other place where that's the case right now. One of my questions is, other than you talked about some of the trees and barriers that you would put up, what are you planning to do to protect the visual privacy, the sight lines of the neighboring backyards and first floor of residences? And for the second story people, and the same question is, what can you do about that?
So I'll make an attempt to answer, and then our architecture engineering firm can add as well. So we are sensitive to that, and fortunately, because this is single family residential that we're proposing, the need for privacy flows both directions, right? So
Right.
You're right. There are some spots where the site is higher. We are currently working with the engineer on grading. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like, and we'll be having some more details on that as we proceed through the process. It's a combination of screen walls where we can, vegetation, which can be very, very effective in offering that screening, and then the setbacks. Many of your homes, both on the north and over on the east, are actually set back from your own property lines. And then there's the wall and then we have our property line, and then we're also setting back. So it's kind of a combination of all of that as we move forward, and we are sensitive to it. The second story would be on the right to our neighbor, because we're not proposing a second story. So the upside, no pun intended, is that we're higher, but we're not suggesting 2 stories, right, where we're looking down. So depending on that elevation, those would be the kind of screening and setback distance, and potentially, and the walls.
Okay, thank you very much.
Perfect. Do you have any other questions or comments at this time, Kevin and Denise?
I do. I figured I'd give somebody else a shot right now, and I'll get back in queue.
Perfect.
He's not going to say what I would like to say. We have an HOA easement that we are on the southeast corner, where the house that sits back there, 2-story. And Kevin expressed our concern that right now, when I look out my bedroom window and my bathroom window, I'm looking right at what is probably the single story that's going to be there. So, there is quite an elevation difference. Also, in our HOA easement, we have a lot of really nice trees that have been growing here for 17 years that we're hoping, they're on our Monterey at Vistoso Homes easement. We're hoping that they won't be disturbed.
Carrie, you're muted at the moment.
Okay. You'd think after 14 months of doing this, I would know how to unmute. I apologize. That's a very good question. And I can honestly say that we'd be in deep trouble if we did anything over on somebody else's piece of property. So we are not going to be doing anything over on the HOA property. And I actually, that's beneficial to the answer too, that Kevin asked, because that screening will remain in place.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, you bet.
I will go ahead and lower your hand. And next on deck is Justin Sanchez. And after Justin will be Marilyn. So Justin, would you like your camera turned on? It looks like it's coming on automatically nowadays.
Yep, good. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, good. Well, as some of my other neighbors expressed, we moved to the subdivision 5 years ago. And this is not your fault by any means, but we were misled by our realtor when we purchased our home. And we were told that actually no one would build behind us, which is why we decided to buy the house that we currently live in. We live in the, I guess it'd be the southeast corner, right by unit number 18, which is right next to my house and my fence. And we're at a lower elevation, as others have mentioned. And my main concern has been discussed by others already with the privacy with the current design. My question is with the percentage of green space that you do have, that you are going to build into this facility, are there plans and are there options to move some of the units around and maybe make it to where there is more green space between the homes and the actual units that are currently in this first iteration of design?
It's a very good question, and I can share my screen if I need to, but that area where the open space is shown, in large part, that's created as the open space because there are 25% slopes. And so the town requires us to maintain those as well as the drainage. So that a lot of that open space is actually defined by town regulation. And to be clear, we have tried a few different options. We do need to get 18 units on the project to make this kind of a project work, the single story. And so that open space area is kind of set. So that this is a lot of words to say no, because I don't like saying no, but there isn't a lot of opportunity for us to play around. And I do know we're having some discussions as well, I think, Mr. Sanchez, with you and your neighbor about that lot 18, and because that is the closest area to existing neighbors. And so we're going to continue that dialogue and see what that edge looks like.
Okay, I think that's good. And my other question is really on the lighting. We enjoy a dark area in the back, and with this subdivision, are there plans to put lights in there, or is there road signs and things that are going to be out there that are going to be lit up or anything along those lines? Sure.
So fortunately, the upside of 18 homes that are probably going to have people in them who also enjoy the dark nights. Town of Oro Valley does have a lighting code that it follows the outdoor lighting code that's across this area of the region, and we will be following that. We don't expect to put street lights on the little street that's in there at all. So it'll just be the lights that are associated with the house, probably similar to what you all have.
Okay, thank you for answering that. And I appreciate your willingness to listen. And I'm not opposed to houses going back there. I just want to make sure that, there is the privacy between the neighbors and we're able to maintain that due to the elevations we currently have and the placement of the houses. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All righty. Justin, I'm going to lower your hand. Feel free to raise it again later if you have another question. And Marilyn, I'm going to unmute you now, and Dana, you are on deck to speak. All righty. Marilyn, it looks like you might be muted on your end. There you go.
Okay, good. You can hear me now? Great. Okay. Well, thank you. It's good that we're having this meeting because it's something we've all been speculating on, and it's not always good to do that without having the facts. I was very relieved when I saw the design plan, so I want to thank you very much for not maxing out the zoning guidelines. I'm not one of the residences that face the development, but I've been here for 20 years and was part of the discussion and the proposal back in 2006. And my main concerns are the land that will be allowed for the wildlife corridor, and also for the congestion that I would anticipate would occur at the entrance during and after construction, And I'm wondering when we will be able to see your plan for that and for the traffic flow. And I also want to know if we are in the very beginnings of this process, I'm wondering what the equipment is doing up at the development site right now and what's going on up there. And, is that part of the normal process or, exactly what is going on? So those are my questions.
Great, thank you. I'm going to answer as many of them as I can. And Marilyn, if I forget one of them, it's the end of the day and I'm tired and it's almost the end of the week. So just prompt me and let me know.
Okay.
So the wildlife part of the Rancho Vistoso PAD has the open space and a lot of it connects through those through the areas with the 25% slopes and the other areas that we need to maintain. So that open space that we're providing is part of that connectivity. Most of the wildlife that's in this area and within Rancho Vistoso is actually, it kind of figures out how to maneuver, but we are trying to keep those spaces. This is not one of the areas that has one of the major wildlife corridors. You see those in other areas, but we do have connectivity that we're creating. Because it's only 18 units, again, we only have the one access point on Morning Vista. So the upside is we're not creating two access points. I believe probably somebody from traffic engineering for Oro Valley is on and can answer if there's some more questions on the traffic. But we're offering one. Every time you create an access point, you're creating an opportunity for some conflict. We only need one because of the density of the project. So that's a good thing. We will, so that is the one access point, and town staff will be reviewing that access point and how it works with Rancho Vistoso Boulevard. We believe it's going to be safe. And as you all know, because you live out there, there's already sort of an indent, right, for that access. There's actually potentially two because of the density that was allowed, but we're only going to need to access one. And we will work with the town as well and the neighborhood as needed on construction traffic too. And I know there was a question earlier about in a different forum about the construction noise, and we'll be complying with the town's noise ordinance. I'm going to kick your question about what's going on the site over to Michael to go ahead and answer.
Alrighty,
Michael, you have to
go ahead and unmute you.
I unmuted.
You're not anymore.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
There I am. And that is a very good question regarding that vehicle out there. No, we are not doing stuff on that land besides sending out people to count plants and engineers to look at the site. That is actually a company that's doing a contract for the town of Oro Valley, and they are illegally dumping on that site. And we have called them and let them know that that's unacceptable, and they're supposed to come back and clean that up. And we've asked them to please move their vehicle off our site as well. And so we have people going out there, and I have contacted their company and asked them to kindly remove it and get the dirt and debris and plants that they left there as well. But it's nothing to do with us. It's a contract for the town of Oro Valley that they're actually doing. And we're not sure, but we have spoken to them. And so we'll let you know before we actually start.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Alrighty, thank you, Marilyn. I'm going to lower your hand rather, and next we'll have Dana speak. So.
Hi again.
Hello again.
I had another question. I was late to the meeting, and I don't know if you discussed grading of that site. When everybody's talking about that the elevation of the back lot is substantially higher than our lots. We're located on Bushwhacker. We're the only single story home. And basically the roundabout is going to look right directly into our living room. So I don't know with your access plan you have right now for the access road. That's a very steep grade right now. Are there any plans to drop that elevation down for the site?
So that's a good question. And this is kind of like having to give the answer no. I also hate giving the answer we're not sure yet, but we're not sure yet. So we're doing some preliminary grading. We know there is a desire to do that. So we're gonna look at that closely. And I think it's a desire on our side as well. Like I said, that privacy mitigation and having it be effective, right, kind of works on both sides. So we're taking a look at it. We just don't know the answer to that right now.
Okay, you probably don't have an answer yet either, since you're still in conceptual design. The screen wall height, the bank behind us is probably roughly 5 to 6 feet above grade, above our backyard. And so how high would you anticipate the screen wall would go above your grade on your site?
You guessed my answer. And part of the reason is because they both play into each other, because there may be a need to put some level of retaining, right, depending on what the grade differential ends up being.
Right.
So it may be a combination of a retaining wall as well as then a screen wall. So as we're figuring out the grading, we're going to figure that out too.
Okay.
So yeah, you guessed my answer.
Okay, I anticipate it could be relatively tall, given the existing grades right now.
It depends on what we can do with the grading. So you're right on.
Okay. Did you have
Do
any
you have any other
questions?
questions for the time being?
No, thank you.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and give a moment for folks in case they want to raise their hands. I thought I saw someone else's hand raised, but it seems to be lowered now. So perhaps their question was answered. If not, like I said, I'll give just a few moments more for those who may want to raise their hand. Again, if you're on the phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. And if you're using the computer, you'll go to the participants icon, which should have the raise hand button underneath it. All righty, it looks like Lewis has a question, so I will ask you to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, and would you like your camera turned
No.
on? Okay.
Thank you, but no. There seems to be a large outcropping or significant outcropping of rock in the subdivision there. How is that going to be dealt with?
I believe, Michael, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is the area with the slope.
Oh, I will unmute you. I'll probably help you answer.
Thank you. There's a large outcropping of rock. I'm sorry, Carrie, and you said?
Is that the area of the open space?
I believe it is.
I think it is too. Lewis, is it up in that kind of northeastern area? Did you see the site plan?
Yes.
Yeah, so that is I believe that is the area where the open space is. So we intend to leave it be.
Okay, thank you.
Ready, I will go ahead and lower your hand and mute you, Lewis, if you have no further questions. And I'll go ahead and wait just a few more moments in case anyone else has a question. All right, looks like someone else has their hand, so I will ask them to unmute. All righty, 520-991-6036.
Yes, hi, I'm Mary, and I am across the wash area, and I'm on the corner lot up there, sitting high up. I've been here since 2003, and I'm glad to see it's only 18 units and 1 story for the other homeowners here. We knew it was going to be developed, but I'm glad it's 1 story and only 18. My concern would just be the entrance and the exit, because it's near our gate. So when that gate opens, we kind of zoom out, okay? And hopefully the people that are waiting to come on that morning Vista will be patient, because we have the gate that we're dealing with.
Got it. Understood. We also hope that we end up selling these to patient human beings.
Yeah, so my just concern was the gate, going through our gate, and then they're coming off of that entrance and exit.
Okay. We'll take a closer look at that too. As you probably know from driving by it, that access point was intended to be there when it was developed for the site. So I'd like to think that was taken into consideration, but we'll take a look at it, and I'm sure Oro Valley Engineering will take a look at it as well. Thank you.
What's strange is they just recently put rock there and riprap and made it look attractive. And now that's where your entrance and exit's going to be. And that is a steep grade. Just a comment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary. I'm going to go ahead and lower your hand if you have no further questions.
That's fine. Thank you.
Perfect. And I'm going to unmute David Laws, who is an internal member of our planning staff, or rather our Community Economic Development Division.
He may be correcting something I said wrong, so go for it, David.
No, Ms. Alvin, you're perfectly fine. So I was just going to mention, Kyle, I can't seem to oh, here we go, the video. Maybe. Okay. So I was just going to mention a couple of things in response to Mary's comment. Number one, thank you for the feedback. As part of the review, we will be checking site visibility. So the good thing about this potential access point is, number one, the access point is there. There's a left turn lane there. So it was always anticipated. There is vegetation, I believe, in those little medians. So we'll just be double checking to make sure that that site visibility line is clear, so people can see each other as they're driving up and down that roadway. That is it. Thanks, Kyle.
Great. Thank you, David. All righty. And at this point, Kevin and Denise, thank you for being patient. I will ask you to unmute again.
Yeah, I just had one more question. Yes, Dana did cover my question regarding the screen walls, and I guess the related question to that was the retaining walls, and I understand that based on what Carrie said, that you folks are still hammering some of the details out on the heights of retaining walls and such, which is affected by the grade. The other question I had was the dust dirt control during construction and water runoff control during construction, and how you folks plan on handling that so that we don't end up with an unintended pool in the backyard.
That would be bad.
Right.
And David can probably answer this too from the town perspective. The town has regulations that we will have to comply with for the dust control. And those are very typical in construction projects. So we'll be complying with that. And I believe it's the same with the drainage during construction. So, and David's hand is up, and he can probably answer that way better than I can. So go for it.
Yeah, no, those are always a great question. And with construction, the dust issue is something that creeps up occasionally, but it's something that we watch very carefully. Residents watch very carefully. If there's a dust issue, a lot of us get the call, and then we call the contractor. So the contractor is required to get a permit through Pima County for dust control. So that is monitored and regulated. There's also requirements for stormwater controls during construction. So they will have, typical, things that you see on a construction site, things like wattles, which are straw type filters and things like that to help control that sediment erosion should there be a big storm during construction.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
The other, just a real quick question regarding the water drainage plan for the completed project. I'm not sure we've seen anything that kind of sort of looks like that yet. I apologize if you folks did present it, but I'm curious to kind of see where the water goes if we get bad rains and stuff like that. I know that was an issue the last time around when there was a proposal for this lot, and I'm kind of curious about this proposal as well.
Yeah, in the conceptual site plan, we're gonna have to show some initial thoughts for the drainage. Michael, I don't know if you know the answer to that, or I know we've got Jason on the call as well.
Jason,
A lot easier when we're in person and they're right there. I can't.
am I unmuted?
Nope, you are now.
Oh, you know, we have done a preliminary study on it, and I would be negligent if I did not encourage Jason to help us answer that. As you know, it is tentative at this juncture, but there is kind of a plan being laid out. Jason, are you still on? Jason Morse with Grenier Engineering.
I do see a Jay Morse online. I don't have the ability to unmute or mute them. It looks like they may still have some audio issues.
Okay, if we get Kevin's email or if we get his information, we can kind of send him that. I'll get with Jason tomorrow and have him give me something preliminary, and we'll kind of send that out so you can kind of take a look at it.
Okay.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Perfect. And Kevin, in order to make that connection, you can feel free to email me at kpacker@orovalleyaz.gov. And that way you'll have, I can help make that connection.
That sounds great. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and lower your hand, and I'll unmute David Laws. It looks like he may have something to say. I'll double check.
Sure. Yeah, just a quick follow-up to that question. We haven't seen the drainage concept yet either, but generally speaking, when the project is developed, it's required to meet pre-developed conditions. So the way drainage is handled on the property currently is the way it should generally be handled once the project is done. So there should not be an increase of flows leaving the property. It should still discharge in the same locations in which the property drains currently. So that's something we look at very closely during the development of the project.
All right, thank you, David. I'm going to go ahead and unmute Cross M7. And it looks like you're muted on your end at the moment. There we go.
Giddy up, we got it going.
Perfect.
All right, sounds good. Thanks everybody for what you're doing. This is Jim and Marcia Kraus, and Dan and Gail Doherty here in our background. They've been neighbors here for 7-8 years. Marcia and I have been here since 1998, original owners. So yeah, this area is pretty important to us. The wildlife, the neighbors, the mountains. So we like all that. I guess just a one quick short question is, sounds like it's kind of a done deal, which is great. I think it's good with the 1 stories and the 18 units. My question would be, what's the proposed startup date when this rock and rolls?
Michael will tell you that he is very, very hopeful to start construction at the end of this year. So as we get through this conceptual site plan and architecture and landscape plan, then we go into the more extensive engineering documents, and it'll probably take us through the end of the year and then start construction then. So that's the plan.
Sounds good. Looking forward to working with you. Giddy up.
Thank you.
All righty. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and unmute Chris, Willie, or Wiley now.
Willie. Thanks,
Really?
Kyle. I appreciate you guys explaining all this out. I'm relatively new within the last 5 years to the neighborhood, and I'm excited to see the plan, and I really appreciate you guys showing that. One question I had, and Jim kind of asked one of them, but the other one I had was the start time. Is there a specific time that the construction workers are going to start for the work, and is it, you mentioned at the end of this year, so I assume that's around school time. So that's another concern, is there's a bus stop right there on the corner. So just a couple thoughts, and appreciate your guys' time.
Chris, where's the bus stop? Is it on the corner of Rancho Vistoso and Morning Vista?
Yes.
Okay. So that's actually a good thing for us to know, which we would have figured out when school started and everybody's back in school. So we will be cognizant of that, and we'll work on the traffic circulation for construction with the town, keeping that in mind. I can honestly say that I don't have the town's construction traffic ordinance memorized. I don't know if Kyle, if you or David have an idea of when there is a time by which we can start construction. I just don't remember what it is.
Exactly. As far as the time constraints, I'll go ahead and unmute David, but I do know that construction hours are typically 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and they do have some fluctuation regarding summer hours. So in summer hours, given the heat, construction can typically start a little bit earlier than that, but maybe David can speak more specifically.
Yeah, good job, Kyle. So the hours are 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. is generally when a contractor can start making noise on the property. And it is a noise ordinance. There is an allowance from April 15th until October 15th for the pouring of concrete. So if they're doing foundation work, they can start as early as 5. I can tell you, we always encourage our contractors to be cognizant of their neighbors. We understand, sometimes 6 a.m. is a little early, so we certainly encourage them to do that, but that is what the ordinance currently says.
Sure. Thank you. I don't know the time for the HOA, but I know we do have a specific time that we allow landscaping work to start here.
Sure.
Maybe someone that's been here longer knows that better, but I do remember that as you can't start in at least the neighborhood at a certain time here, but that obviously is probably different. So thank you.
Absolutely. Alrighty, I will go ahead and lower everyone's hands for the time being. And once again, I will wait just a few moments here to see if anyone else has a question, as it looks like we start to wrap up our meeting for the time being. Alrighty, I'm going to ask Wendy to unmute.
And then here.
Hi, this is Dave and Wendy Wise. Just have a question regarding the issue of the school students and the bus stop. Currently, I know there's a walk path up through there that a lot of the students in that end of the neighborhood use. Is that going to continue to be able to be accessed, or will that be stopped and they'll have to go another, whole way up to the corner and take a longer route to get to the bus stop?
I'm going to ask an ignorant question because I didn't pay attention to that when I went out to the site. Is that a sidewalk, right? Is it in the right of way, David?
No, it's just a path up through the area that there's right now. It's like just a walking path or a hiking trail that a lot of them use for a shortcut to get up to the corner. Instead of having to go the whole way up to the corner of follow the road, they just take a shortcut
Next to the wash.
up along the wash to make it easier to get up to the bus stop and a lot quicker.
Yeah, no.
I'm going to go ahead and unmute David Laws, as it looks like he may have something to say here.
Yeah, so the only thing I was going to say was, I'm not sure where the path is that the kids are currently taking, but there are sidewalks. There's a sidewalk on each side of Morning Vista Drive. So certainly during construction, at the very least, one of those sidewalks will be open, so that can safely get kids to either corner.
Well, and it sounds like from the way you've described it, that your children, and I have 3 teenagers, may be getting a little bit more exercise because that path may be crossing the property. right in the middle where there's going to be some houses. So if that's what I'm understanding, then as David said, there's sidewalks. They may have to leave for the bus a little bit earlier, which I know my 3 teenagers would not be happy about. But
Wendy, I'm going to go ahead and lower your hand for the time being, as you haven't unmuted here. So if you do have a follow-up question, please feel free to raise your hand again. All right, and once again, if anyone else has any questions, please feel free to ask them. Now is the time. All righty, I will go ahead and unmute Marilyn again. Oh, see, I may need to try that again.
Okay, very quick question. If we think of something after this meeting, who can we direct our questions to?
You can direct questions to me at kpacker@oralvalleyaz.gov.
Okay, thank you.
and Kyle will put you in touch with us if it's a question that we need to answer as well.
All right, I'm going to lower your hand, Marilyn, and raise the ask the Galaxy Tab A7 to unmute.
Did I unmute?
We can hear you a little bit. I think you may need to
Okay.
find the microphone. Having some trouble hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's much better.
Okay. So I'm Lance Bryant, and I am the neighbor of Justin Sanchez. And we are the ones that are going to be living directly behind unit number 18. And I had called earlier and I had talked to some folks regarding our concern about privacy and about just the distance. And that unit number 18, is there any possibility that that unit could be moved west, a little further away from our properties, seeing that there is some space between it and the buildings that are west of it?
So Mr. Bryant, appreciate you being on the call. I know you've talked to Robin in my office a few times, and we're gonna probably set up a time to speak as well. So it kind of goes to the same question that somebody asked, and it may have been your neighbor. That open space area is partly open space because it's 25% slope, and by town ordinance, you can't develop in the 25% slope. So we, unfortunately, it sort of set the areas that we can put the homes. I mean, given a flat piece of land, right, we would suggest the same thing, right? Pull that back and swap that for the open space. Unfortunately, we can't because, but we are, like I said, we're gonna set a time and chat with you and your neighbor too, as the two closest to kind of figure some stuff out over on that edge.
All right, does that answer your question? Do you have any more comments at that point?
No.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and lower your hand then. And I just want to go ahead and say, in order to address some of those kind of a much earlier discussion in regards to some equipment and or dumping on the site, the town is absolutely going to look into that. The town doesn't maintain any landscaping in this area, so we will absolutely be sending some compliance officers out in order to investigate further into that situation.
And Kyle, we'll send you some pictures as well. It wasn't landscaping, it's some sort of pipe work that's being done out there.
Understood. Thank you.
You bet.
All right. Once again, if anyone has any further questions, please go ahead and raise your hands. All right, then seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and start with the last few slides of our presentation. I want to go ahead and thank you for joining tonight's neighborhood meeting. The next opportunity to provide comments and ask questions is going to be at the next neighborhood meeting after the applicant's formal submittal and staff review. And notice will be sent out in advance of this meeting, similar to how it was for this meeting. If you weren't notified and you wish to be in the future, please send a request with your name and address to kpacker@orovalleyaz.gov. Please help us spread the word about this proposal and upcoming public participation opportunities. Signs have been posted on the property and adjacent property owners have been directly notified by mail. And if you cannot make the next neighborhood meeting, public input can also be provided at Planning and Zoning Commission meetings as well as Town Council meetings. And notice will be sent out in advance of those public meetings as well. So I once again, just if you have any questions or comments, please forward them to me at kpacker@orovalleyaz.gov and go to ovprojects.com to visit the project webpage, where we'll continue to add new information as it becomes available. If you didn't receive a yellow postcard for this meeting and wish to be notified in the future, please email me at that email address, and I will absolutely put you on our notice list. So with that, I would like to thank you everyone very much for their time tonight and wish you a wonderful evening. Thank you very much.